So it just proves that it's false. Like, whoever he had who's impersonating this officer who I talked to is a liar. It's not really the officer.
Do you remember your reporting officer ID?
10347.
So there I was watching King Jed's bingo yesterday, big ups, go sub to him, where he watches Phil, but not live. He's always a few minutes behind, so he can listen to Phil at a faster rate of speed because, oh my god, is Phil boring at 1x. And every so often I jump over to Raw Phil to see the future. It's always fun to watch him be toxic in Jed's stream, go over to Raw Phil's, see that he has $5 and then report back to the stream, I'm from the future, don't worry, he's still at $5. So I had commented in Raw's chat a few minutes prior, and I managed to show up at about noon and 15 or 20 seconds because I hear Phil saying you're a dunce, you realize this, right? And right before I go tell Jed, hey, we have some good shit coming up, I see my name highlighted in Raw Phil's chat. I go check and holy shit. If I had any doubt that the 220 meme that Officer Whitney provided damaged Phil, he has exterminated that doubt with extreme prejudice. Now yes, I did a short stream on this yesterday, but this feels like something that needs a quick or concise response. So, Phil, does 220 upset you?
Boom Arms defeat DSP says, what about 220? Hey, Boom Arms, you do realize that the whole 220 thing was completely fabricated, completely false. Never had any truth to it whatsoever. Literally not a lick of evidence or anything was ever shown. It was just all hearsay. And you all believed it because you're a bunch of fucking mouth-drilling idiots, right? You do realize that no one involved in that story was real. It was completely made up from the ground up. And people are just so dumb they believe it because they don't need to see any facts. They just want to believe negative things. You know that, right? That you're a dunce, that you're a fucking idiot. I just want to make that clear to you that you're actually the most gullible fucking moron on this planet because you believe everything you're told for the memes and the giggles, right?
Look at me. I'm infiltrating Phil's stream. But seriously, there's a lot to unpack here. First, the allegation that it was fabricated and completely false. Now, he dives into what he means a little later, so in the words of Critical Drinker, we'll get there.
Soon enough. Believe that.
Then there's the allegation there wasn't a lick of evidence, which, again, later. But then, there's the allegation of hearsay. And since Phil brought it up, let's go over why this would be allowed in court. Now, please understand, I'm not a lawyer, I can't practice law, so with that disclaimer, to my understanding of hearsay, it is typically not allowed for a party to testify they heard from another party a piece of information. So as an example, if Officer Whitney were to testify, witness Susie stated that Mr. Burnell was the bad man. This wouldn't be acceptable since defense couldn't cross-examine witness Susie. In order to get witness Susie's testimony into court, Susie would have to testify to what she said. The difference here is that Officer Whitney is the witness. She is the one testifying about what she heard from Phil in their conversation. And in the legal context, Phil could counter what she said, but hilariously enough, will confirm it later on. So no, Phil, this wouldn't be inadmissible hearsay. The conversation I had with Officer Whitney would be considered direct witness testimony. And as if to make my point, after saying it was hearsay, he could have immediately cross-examined her, so to speak, by offering clarity as to what really happened, but instead unleashes a toxic rant about how the person who brought it up is a dunce and an idiot, and just straight to the personal attacks and insults. It really gives the guy credibility, doesn't it?
If you don't know what's going on, graphics, that's a good thing. These are dumbasses on the Kick Chat who do detractor memes and shit, but all the stuff that they reference is always false and fake. Big dumb memes that were made up that have nothing to do with reality, but they just all circle jerk each other into believing that everything is true, even though there's never ever been a lick of evidence of anything that they say. They just fucking, oh yeah, it's true. See, and there you go. Well, can you provide that it's evidence that it's false? No, you stupid fucking moron. You don't have to do that. In real life, it's called innocent until proven guilty. You don't get to just throw a zillion fucking accusations at someone and then say, well, unless they can prove it, it's true. That's not how it works, you fucking idiot. I can make up anything about anyone right now, and you're just going to blanket believe it, even though I provided absolutely no evidence, and it's just hearsay of two people saying stuff. Why are you so dumb?
Butthurt really brings out the toxic side of Phil, doesn't it? But whoever in chat asked about any counter evidence Phil had was absolutely right to do so, and you can tell because of how mad that made Phil. But Phil, the concept of innocent until proven guilty is in a court of law. We're not in a court of law. We're on YouTube, where the court of public opinion is in play. But fuck it. Let's go over that evidence. Eventually, Phil will state Officer Whitney pretended to be someone she wasn't. So first, that's an allegation based on no evidence, something he's lambasting my argument for. I guess chalk this up to another rules for thee, but not for me. He's never stated a source which would discredit the recording. He's never offered a recording of his own, shown communication that counter my videos or statements, and literally is writing on the elementary school defense of nuh-uh. So let me attack my own evidence for you, Phil. You could say that I had a conversation with Miss Whitney beforehand and basically staged the interview. But alas, Phil, this exists. This is a screenshot of the initial contact I had with Miss Whitney, and I want to draw your attention to where it says you can now message and call each other and see information like active status or when you've read messages. To my knowledge, the only time this appears is when someone blind messages, that is to say, messages someone without ever messaging them before, and then the other party accepts the message, meaning this lends validity to my claim that I didn't talk to her beforehand. Now remind me what Phil has again? Oh, right. Nuh-uh. Nice, Phil. Now, don't worry, there's more coming, but let's let the little piggy squeal a bit more.
Like, no, I have to ask this question. All right, where is this fucking boom arm idiot? Who are you? And who pays for your internet? Who pays your bills in life? Because there's no way that someone as dumb as you actually holds a job. So who are you leeching off of? Is it your parents? Is it the government? I really want to know. I want to get to the heart of these people on the internet that are this stupid and actually just sit there believing toxic fucking hatred against people. Who are you? How do you exist? Because I'm shocked that you get out of bed every day and don't immediately trip and put your head through the wall and kill yourself because you're so stupid, right? How do you actually use the bathroom without like defecating all over the floor? How do you tie your own shoes? I need to know how dumb people like you actually fucking get away with it. Because it's obvious if you're that fucking ignorant and stupid that someone's doing everything for you, right? You're not actually independent. There's no way.
It's rich hearing Phil mock others as jobless or on government assistance when his entire livelihood depends on tips from people who are often on fixed income or public aid. The guy who hasn't held a real job in over a decade, couldn't pass a background check if his life depended on it, and begs daily like it's a 9-to-5, wants to lecture others about self-sufficiency? I said this on my stream, Phil might be an actual vampire because if you held a mirror up to him, there's no way he is going to reflect.
Let's see, I got a $2 tip. Do I get sick of people asking about the tractors or telling you what the tractors are doing, etc.? I mean, it gets tiresome because you guys know I don't care, right? Like, as I've said many times, I just don't give a shit about what they're doing or saying. And then these morons come on my streams and they repeat these stupid memes. That like that 220 meme is just so stupid. From what I'm to understand, again, this is just me trying to understand it from an outsider's perspective because I don't watch or listen to garbage from morons. I guess they're trying to say that a police officer came out to my house, looked around and saw that I had a bunch of security cameras around my house. Like my house is on lockdown or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's Fort Knox and there was like all this security. And then they made a report that I'm a 220, which I guess means that I'm like a crazy person who's fucking paranoid and shit or something. None of that ever happened.
While it is true that Officer Whitney never wrote in her narrative affidavit that Phil was a 220, I never stated she did. Rather, Officer Whitney didn't recall ever telling anyone that they only worked human trafficking, but did say she would tell people to contact the FBI, But
that was if I was tired of talking to them and they were what we call a 220, kind of mental.
It's the fact Phil highlights, on every occasion I might add, I was told to contact the FBI, that to me confirms Officer Whitney's story. Now, as to the she never came to my house, oh no, Phil, what's this? It's a copy of Officer Whitney's narrative affidavit stating, after reviewing Phil's latest email, I drove to his residence in the gated community of Palm Court. While there, I didn't see anything suspicious. Now, why wouldn't Phil know this? Because this is a supplemental affidavit, written 2 days after the initial report, so whatever copies Phil has are not complete. So the dumbass doesn't even know the entire scope of his own case. So to recap, Phil blasts a member of chat for being stupid and believing false narratives, while he himself doesn't know what went on in his own case, and alleges that something didn't happen, when in Officer Whitney's narrative, it's very clear it did happen. But remember, guys, we don't have evidence. We don't have proof. This is all a highly intricate troll for me to get a couple hundred or maybe a few thousand views. Obviously.
Ever in history, no one ever came to my house. Everything, I made a single phone call to the police once to talk about a death threat that I got against me and my family. And that was the extent of it. Nothing else ever actually happened after the initial phone call. That was it. So anything that was ever said in addition to that is a lie. And no evidence could ever be presented otherwise, because it can't be true, because it didn't happen.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
I am very sorry, Phil, but I'm gonna have to call your dumbass lies out again. Phil just said, quote,
"Nothing else ever actually happened after the initial phone call. That was it."
But as I alluded to, there are a few written entries that disprove this. Let's start with the initial complaint, which, as we can see, lists that it occurred on January 15th, 2021. But just 3 pages later, Officer Whitney updates her narrative on January 17th because Phil emailed her. Surely that's it though, right? Wrong. You see, this case was forwarded to investigations, and wouldn't you know it, Detective Chris Edwards also wrote a narrative where we can see that on January 21st, 2021, he spoke to Mr. Burnell. Now, it doesn't say that Phil has cameras, but he did document that they talked about family security and cameras for security at the house. Take that for what you will. The crux of this bit, however, is to show that Phil is out and out lying. This evidence does exist. The fact he doesn't have it because he has a brain as smooth as a marble does not discredit me.
So every little piece of this weird meme story that these people have fabricated, you believe it, you're that dumb. I made one phone call to report a death threat against my family years ago. And I had a small conversation with an officer on the phone.
Ever notice how Phil says small or big in front of words like conversation? It's weird, isn't it? I wonder if this has ever happened before, like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, the Side Scrollers interview at 2 hours, 28 minutes and 57 seconds?
I contacted our police here, and I had a big conversation.
So when it's Phil trying to be a victim, he had a big conversation. When the dildo of consequences is fucking Phil, it's a small conversation. That seems odd, doesn't it?
Saying, hey, in addition to the death threats, I'm also having some big problems with internet chargebacks on PayPal, which is fraud. It's someone saying that they have a stolen credit card or whatever, and it's a mass amount of these things that I'm having at this point. Do the police deal with stuff like that? To which I was told, no, we don't deal with anything online whatsoever. The only capacity that we have is to deal with like human trafficking and stuff like that. You might want to speak with the FBI, but unless it's of a certain dollar amount, which is probably thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, no one's ever going to really help you. But here's a number if you want to call the FBI.
So let's sum this bit up. I'm not going to play back the audio. You can go listen to it if you don't believe me. But at this time, Officer Whitney worked human trafficking cases, and she says she wouldn't say anything like that to anyone. Moreover, we know that Phil likes to inject just a little bit of truth in his stories from all the other times he's been caught lying. And what we have here is Phil saying that he was told that they only work human trafficking, a lie, but then confirming he was told to contact the FBI. And as we remember from before, when does Officer Whitney tell him to contact the feds?
But that was if I was tired of talking to them and they were what we call a 220, kind of mental.
And that was the final conversation I ever had with them about anything. No, nothing ever proceeded after that. No one came to my house. No one looked at cameras. This is all complete nonsense. So that entire story you've been told, whoever this fake person or persons are that have been involved on talking on a show about, they literally all made it up. That doesn't exist. It's not real. It's all fabrication. None of this stuff is real, ever. It's always they made up a story to try to have content, and then they have people faking who they are and fake guests and fake announcements, fake stories, fake everything. None of it was ever real. And again, no evidence is ever presented because none of it can ever be presented because it's always fake. But they've created this entire community of cult-like following where, oh, the next thing about DSP, the next weird thing about DSP, and none of it's ever real, but you just eat it up. You absolutely just eat everything up and like, oh, yes, eat it up. I want more drama about DSP when none of it happened. None of it. Listen, I'll tell you, I make mistakes on streams right here. This is where I sometimes make mistakes. I'll say something stupid, I'll get angry, and I'll rage, and I'll act like a fool on a stream. And that's the extent of it. What you see is what you get. There is no other shit going on outside of these streams. There's no drama. None of this is real. All this stuff is just completely made up. These people are fucking nuts.
So with the copious amounts of evidence that I have, Phil still maintains that none of this is real. I don't have it, or it doesn't exist, and of course that I have fake people that I had talk to me. This is the burglar on camera stealing the money from the register while reciting his social security number, leaving his ID behind, placing a fingerprint card inside the register, and still going to court to tell the judge,
Your Honor, shut the fuck up. You wasn't even there.
But remember this, every other time Phil denies something, saying, why would I lie about this? Or tries to weasel his way out of shit. Motherfucker is the most elite level of coward you can find.
Someone did a $1.26 tip and says these people are losers. They want to create fantasies about you so they have some meaning in their lives. Yeah, again, because they actually want to believe this nonsense, right? Here's the thing. If they hear a story that a police officer was called out to Darkside Phil's house and the officer arrives and there's a fucking a chain link fence with electricity on it and a bunch of security cameras on it and security cameras all over the house, then they ha ha, DSP's a paranoid loser who just sits at home all day, ha ha ha. Couldn't be further from the truth. I love going out. I really do. It's just I work a lot. So I don't get to go out a lot, but now I've been going out more. In fact, this last week I had 2 days off with my wife and we went out and did a whole bunch of fun stuff. We're hoping that we can do some stuff together, maybe over the summer or into the fall. We're trying to make some plans and shit like that. But your fantasy doesn't make it reality. Just because you're jealous of me and you wish that you were me and you're not, you're a miserable wretch sitting at home with nothing around you but the internet that you type on to make fun of people. It doesn't mean that the fabricated story you made up about me is real. It just means you're a loser.
Phil calling anyone a liar is complete and total projection, seeing how he's been caught lying more times than he's pulled for Hogan's. But remember, it doesn't matter if it's honesty or not, it's still an answer. From WWE champions to chargebacks to pretending he didn't know how PayPal worked. And jealous of what? Being a 43-year-old man begging online every day, banding half the internet and terrified of a 9-to-5 job? Dude, if that's the dream, I'll stay asleep. Thanks though.
But someone went and found the police report from years and years ago when I actually got that death threat, okay? They turned the police report into a giant fabricated memeable story so that they had fake content to put out on YouTube, including fake guests who claimed that they were people who they weren't. They made it all up. It's pretty insane, don't you think?
So this video, you've seen me directly rebut his allegations of me lying, so let's go over his claims and the evidence that he's presented so far. 1, I got the report and I turned it into a giant fraudulent memeable story. Evidence? None. 2, it was so I could put out fake content on YouTube. Evidence that it's fake? None. Evidence that my motive was just to put out content? None. The guest, Officer Whitney, was fake. Evidence? None. The entire thing was made up. Evidence? None. Folks, this entire bit comes down to 2 arguments from Phil. 1, nuh-uh. And 2, they lied and my source is trust me bro. Which is on par for someone who made the genius decisions to max out 13 credit cards on figurines, move to the opposite side of the country, and buy sweaty man JPEGs. But Phil, my evidence stands on its own. And I'll throw the gauntlet down and make the statement that, Phil, you can't disprove this evidence. There is no counter. And your continuation to talk and say, they're lying or they're making things up only serves to show you as the dumbass you are. Thank you to my members, the newbies, neophytes, and the god tier gym rats. I made this video with you guys in mind. Thanks to Raw Phil for the stream. Love the fact we can use you and not give Phil clicks. Keep it up. Until next time, swole is the goal for a troll. Lift heavy. Eat clean. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard from prosecution days of testimony, correct? Hundreds, if not thousands, of exhibits of evidence, maybe millions. But ask yourself this one question. Have they really answered the verifiable fact that I said, nuh-uh?